Hey everyone, it's Jenny freaking Kim. Today, I'm excited to dive into part 2 of my favorite releases tier list. What an incredible year it's been. We've been spoiled with an impressive number of releases from various groups, with some even giving us multiple comebacks. With the year drawing to a close, now is the perfect time to revisit all the new releases since my last video. And as you can see down below, we have a lot to get through. Over the past few weeks, I've carefully reviewed every release featured here. With both singles and albums combined, we have over 100 songs to talk about. So hang in there with me, there's a lot to unpack. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I mainly focus on female K-pop groups and idols, sharing tier lists, rankings, and reviews throughout the year. If this sounds like your cup of tea, you're in the right place. I post videos every month, with new releases and debuts happening all the time. There's always something exciting to talk about. Hope you stick around. I'll not only be ranking these releases on a tier list, but I'll also be giving a score for each individual song, along with a total score for the release. For example, when reviewing an album, I'll score every track, and then calculate an average to determine the album's overall score. Additionally, to ensure albums don't automatically have an advantage due to having more songs, I've made it so that as long as a song's score is equal to or higher than any track from an album, it's eligible to be placed ahead of that album, and vice versa. My scores are entirely based on my personal opinion and have nothing to do with a song's popularity or chart performance. It's all about my own perspective. Like in part 1 of this video, I'll be considering factors such as quality, styles, and overall creativity when making my decisions. With that said, we have an astronomical number of releases to cover, so let's dive right in. To kick things off, let's talk about Bad Villain. In my opinion, they're a severely underrated 5th-gen group, and their debut release, Overstep, is proof of that. With just 3 songs, they managed to showcase their impressive rapping skills and intense, aggressive concept. I absolutely love their style, and I'm excited to see what they have in store for future releases. My favorite track from this release has to be Bad Villain, as it really captures the essence of the group and serves as a great theme for them. Overall, the release is solid, not necessarily explosive, but it shows potential. I'm looking forward to seeing them bring more heat in the future. I'm giving this release an overall score of 8, which places it in the good tier. Shortly after Overstep, Bad Villain dropped their single Hurricane, and I was absolutely blown away. The melody, the beats, and the fast-paced rapping all come together to make this a powerful track in my eyes, and it's easily my favorite song from them. This single scores a perfect 10 without question, and is the first release to land in the perfect tier. I'd say that Bad Villain is off to a great start, and I hope that they continue with this style moving forward next year. Next up is Twice with their Japanese album, Dive. Right from the start, I truly appreciate the sheer number of tracks included in this release. With a total of 8 new songs and 2 re-releases, it's a generous offering. I absolutely love the overall concept and style of this album. I would argue that the title track, Dive, is not only one of my favorite songs of the year, but also one of my favorites from Twice in quite some time. However, I can't say the same for the rest of the songs, with all due respect. While they weren't bad by any means, Ocean Deep and Beyond the Horizon stand out as notable tracks, the remaining songs feel somewhat average to me. The scores for each track speak for themselves, but I can confidently say there are no bad songs in this release. That being said, I give this album a total score of 8.1, placing it in the good tier, right in front of Bad Villain's Overstep. It's not a bad album from Twice, but I do wish they would focus more on quality over quantity. Next up is Tsuyu with her first solo mini-album, About Tsuyu. This was a surprise release for me, as I never expected to see Tsuyu venture into solo music. I have to admit, for her debut solo release, she did a commendable job. Tsuyu has provided us with 6 tracks, which is a respectable amount, and the variety of styles across these songs, along with the overall concept, offers a refreshing new look for her. The title track, Runaway, is easily my favorite from the album, with a few other standout tracks like Lazy Baby and One Love coming in close behind. The remaining songs are, in my opinion, about average, but overall, this was a solid release. I'm giving it an overall score of 8.33, placing it in the good tier, just ahead of Twice's album Dive. Next up is Twice's Nayeon, with her second full-length solo album, NA. I have to say, this is by far my favorite work from Nayeon. This release features a wide variety of songs across different styles and concepts that she fits perfectly. A huge shout out to Julie for collaborating with Nayeon, which was a delightful surprise for me. After listening to their song Magic, I believe they make a powerful duo. Nayeon continues to demonstrate that she is truly soloist material, and I would go so far as to say this is one of my favorite releases of the year. This album is nearly flawless, earning a total score of 9.57, which places it in the perfect tier. While Bad Villain's Hurricane scored a perfect 10, I'm placing Nayeon's album ahead. Moving on to our next release, we have Les Seraphim with their mini album Crazy. I'm absolutely in love with this era for the group, especially with tracks like Pierrot and 1-800 Hot and Fun that showcase their full rapping potential. We all know about Les Seraphim's challenges earlier this year during their performance at Coachella, but this release proves that they haven't given up. They've come back even stronger and more confident, and I applaud them for that. Pierrot and 1-800 Hot and Fun are undoubtedly among my favorite songs of the year, and I hope Les Seraphim continues to release more rap tracks in the near future. One aspect I really appreciate about Les Seraphim's releases is that they always include at least one softer track, like Crazier. However, they also tend to feature a song where they talk over music in the background, such as Chasing Lightning. I'm not a big fan of this style. While I understand it serves as more of an intro to the release, it's just not my cup of tea, which is why I gave it a lower rating. Overall, I gave this release a total score of 9. If we were to exclude the intro track, this would be the first flawless non-single release with a perfect score of 10. That said, I will place this release in the great tier. Up next is Kiss of Life with their summer single Sticky. I loved everything about this track. It truly embodies the perfect summer anthem. Kiss of Life never disappoints, and the exciting, vibrant concept of this release brought brightness to my summer days. Let's not forget the B-side track Te Quiero, which is also a vibrant and spicy song that I believe is quite underrated. Personally, I believe that the summer R&B style suits them best, and I hope they bring more heat like this next summer. I give this release a total score of 9.5, placing it in the perfect tier, just behind Nayeon's album. Following that release, Kiss of Life dropped their mini album, Lose Yourself. This album has proven to me that Kiss of Life are the masters of the R&B concept in the K-pop industry. Songs like REM, Chemistry, and Igloo are easily my favorites from this release. To be quite honest, I think the B-sides of this mini album outshine the main track, Get Loud, which I found to be somewhat average. That being said, while this wasn't a Midas touch, it was still a strong release from Kiss of Life. Therefore, I'll give this album a score of 8.71, placing it at the top of the good tier. For our next release, we have New Jeans with their mini album, though I would consider it a single, Supernatural. New Jeans is well known for consistently delivering classics, and I believe they've done it again here. Both tracks on this release stay true to New Jeans' Y2K concept, and I can confidently say that these two songs are among their best work to date. I really love their Powerpuff Girls-inspired style, which makes them incredibly unique and refreshing. It feels like it was made just for them. I would go as far as to compare these songs to Super Shy and New Jeans in terms of overall quality. I consider this release a masterpiece and give it a flawless score of 10, placing it at the very top of the perfect tier. Next up is Misamo with their single New Look. I found this song to be really cute and incredibly catchy. The concept adds a fitting touch, and I can't wait for the full release of this mini album, which is set to drop just a week after this video goes live. That being said, I wouldn't say that New Look is on the same level as Do Not Touch, which came out last year. Still, I think this was a really strong single nonetheless. I'm giving this release a score of 9.5, placing it in the perfect tier just behind Bad Villain's Hurricane. Up next is (G)I-DLE with their mini album, I Sway. Much like Kiss of Life, I think this release serves as a solid summer soundtrack. I consider (G)I-DLE to be masters of versatility, as they effortlessly embody this cool summer vibe. While Klaxon was the standout track, I personally really loved the vocals in Last Forever. I would consider this an underrated release by (G)I-DLE. While it may not have the same impact as, say, Queen Card, I would still give this release an overall score of 9. That said, I'm placing it in the great tier, right behind LE SSERAFIM's Crazy. Up next is Yuki with her first solo album. I absolutely adored this album, as it highlights Yuki's versatility as a soloist. The creativity in the concepts and the wide range of musical styles showcased throughout the album is truly fulfilling. It covers a spectrum of emotions, from exciting and chill vibes to rapping and soft-hearted vocals. I have to admit, this album gave me a new perspective on Yuki. It truly brings out her untapped potential, and I hope she releases more solo music in the near future. That being said, I'm giving this album an overall score of 9.14, placing it in the great tier ahead of LE SSERAFIM's Crazy. Next up is ITZY's album, Gold. I was really excited about this release, especially with Leah's return, as ITZY is now back at full strength. One aspect I truly admire about this album is the inclusion of the final version of their previous album, Born to Be, featuring Leah on all the tracks. I commend ITZY for this thoughtful addition. However, I won't include the scores for those tracks, as I believe they don't significantly impact the overall assessment, and I want to focus solely on the new songs. That said, I genuinely enjoyed this release. The concept feels more aligned with traditional ITZY, especially when compared to the aggressive, almost rockstar vibe of Born to Be. My personal favorites from this album are Bad Girls Are Us and Supernatural, but overall, I think this was a fantastic release. I also have to admit that this release doesn't quite reach the heights of tracks like Wannabe or even Dalla Dalla. I find myself wondering if they will ever return to that level of music, as I consider those to be their greatest works to date. Nonetheless, I remain hopeful and will continue to support them. With that said, I'll give this release a total score of 9 and place it within the great tier, just behind LE SSERAFIM's Crazy. Next up, we have Red Velvet with their album Cosmic. I have to admit, this album absolutely blew me away. It's definitely one of my favorite releases from Red Velvet so far. I am completely loving this fairy tale, out of this world concept, and they executed it perfectly. The vocals, the melodies, and the lyrics come together to create a truly artistic experience. Cosmic, Sunflower, Love Arcade, and Night Drive stood out to me the most, and are easily some of my favorite songs of the year. Red Velvet has so many gems in their discography, and I believe this release is another one to add to their impressive collection. That said, I'm giving this album a total score of 9.5. Placing it in the perfect tier, right behind Nayeon's album. Now let's talk about the members of Blackpink and their solo releases. This is one segment I've been eagerly anticipating all year long. The time has finally come. Keep in mind that by the time I've made this video, there are still some upcoming releases on the horizon. However, I've decided not to postpone this video for just a few additional releases, so I apologize if I leave those out. Moving along, I want to start with Lisa, who has released 3 incredible solo songs. Known for her absolute bops like Money, Lisa continues to serve us some heat with this latest batch. Rockstar, New Woman, and Moonlit Floor each showcase different styles, ranging from the aggressive rap vibe to laid back and the soft, sweet tones of Moonlit Floor. These tracks truly highlight Lisa's versatility in her solo era. Not to mention, in New Woman, I absolutely loved her collaboration with Rosalia. The switch up on the beat was such a cool touch. I was very impressed with Lisa's singles overall, and I will give each of them their own scores. Rockstar gets a 10 and deserves a spot within the perfect tier behind Red Velvet's album, Cosmic. New Woman also gets a 10 and belongs within the perfect tier behind Kiss of Life's Sticky. Moonlit Floor receives a 9, and I will place it within the great tier behind G-Idol's I Sway. Next up, we have Jennie with her single, Mantra. While she did collaborate and was featured on 2 other songs earlier this year, one for Zico's Spot and another for Matt Champion's Slow Motion, I won't include those in this tier list as those weren't her songs. Talking about Mantra, I thought this was an incredible start for Jennie's solo career. She showcases her powerful rapping skills, and the lyrics for this song are so empowering and confident. Jennie fits this concept like a glove, and I genuinely look forward to her future releases. That said, Jennie is no stranger to solo music. As in the past, she released Solo and You and Me, which I think were absolute gems. I believe that Mantra is on the same level. Because of that, this release gets a 10 in my book, and I will place it within the perfect tier behind Red Velvet's album Cosmic. For our final Blackpink member, we have Rosé. I have to admit, this release took me by surprise, and honestly, I think that Rosé dropped a classic with this one. I absolutely love how catchy it is, and not only that, but Rosé fits the pop rock style so well. It was amazing how her vocals matched so well with Bruno Mars, and this collaboration feature also caught me off guard. I totally love this single, and I can't wait to see Rosé's next release, which is planned to come out next month. With that being said, I am giving Rosé a flawless 10 for this single, which belongs within the perfect tier, and I will even place this ahead of Nayeon's album. Next up is IVE with their single Crush. I love this song so much, as it not only made for a really good summer anthem, but also stayed true to that classic IVE style of being cute and bright. This was a super underrated release, and to be honest, one of my favorites from IVE this year. I hope that we get more releases like this next year. With that being said, I'm giving this single a 10 and placing it within the perfect tier behind Kiss of Life's Sticky. Not only that, but I've released another summer single, Summer Festa. This single was part of their promotion with Pepsi, and I thought it was a pretty cool song. However, it's probably not on the same level as Crush, in my opinion. That said, I think the vocals and the catchy melody were quite strong here. Therefore, I will give this release an 8 and place it within the good tier ahead of Bad Villain's Overstep. Moving on to the next release, we have aespa with their Japanese single, Hot Mess. While aespa has been on fire all year, this is undoubtedly their most underrated release, and honestly, one of the most underrated songs in general. The single features 2 new tracks and 1 re-release, and the style of both Hot Mess and Sun and Moon is spot on. The vocal and rap performances are truly spectacular. The song Zoom Zoom is a re-release from their first Japanese single last year. Personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of this track, but I think it's decent. Honestly, if it weren't for the re-release, I would have given it a flawless 10. Instead, it's receiving a 9 and landing in the great tier, right behind ITZY's album. Next up is aespa's highly anticipated first solo mini album, Sync, Parallel Line. This is a release many of us have been eagerly awaiting. They've been showcasing their solos during their tour, and fans, including myself, have been passionately requesting this drop. I'm absolutely in love with this release. It's refreshing to see each member showcase their unique styles. While everyone seems to adore Karina's solo, my personal favorite is Giselle's Dopamine. I love the chill, laid-back rap vibes it delivers. Overall, it's an amazing release, and I'm giving it a score of 9.5, placing it in the perfect tier ahead of Lisa's New Woman. Lastly, we have aespa's 5th mini-album, Whiplash. At this point, I must admit that aespa continues to demonstrate their hard work and dedication toward a daesang. I've mentioned before that if they don't win one this year, I honestly don't know what it would take for them to secure that honor. They consistently deliver fire releases like this one and find new ways to outdo themselves with every new drop. With this release, aespa has seamlessly blended techno and rap into one incredible package, and I was absolutely blown away by this banger. For me, it's all about Whiplash and Pink Hoodie, and I would definitely consider this one of my favorite releases of the year. aespa earns a score of 9.67 for this album, placing them in the perfect tier ahead of Rosé's single APT. Up next, we have the rookie group Meow with their debut single, Meow. I didn't know much about them before this, but this song really captivated me with its bold rapping style. I also love how catchy the hook is, and to be honest, I think they have the potential to become a formidable group within the 5th generation in the near future. Meow's vocals and rapping abilities show a lot of promise, and I'd even go as far as to say that this might be one of my favorite songs of the year. With that in mind, I'm giving this single a score of 10, placing it in the perfect tier ahead of Lisa's New Woman. Speaking of rookies, our next release is iLit with their second mini album, I'll Like You. I have to admit, I've had high hopes for iLit since their first release, Super Real Me, but this album truly exceeds expectations. iLit has come to play, representing the Y2K concept masterfully with this release. I'm completely in love with every track featured on this release, with Cherish My Love and Pimple standing out as my personal favorites. I would go so far as to say that not only is this my favorite release from iLit, but it's arguably one of my favorite albums of the year. This release is a masterpiece in my eyes, and I'm already looking forward to iLit's future projects. With that in mind, this mini album earns a total score of 9.8. Coming very close to being the first non-single release to receive a flawless 10. Still, I'm placing this in the perfect tier ahead of New Jeans' Supernatural. For our final 5th gen group, we have Baby Monster with their single Forever. Coincidentally, their first full-length album, Drip, is being released on the same day as this video. It's a bit disappointing because I was hoping to include that album in my review, but unfortunately, the show must go on. As I mentioned before, I won't postpone a video for a release. Either way, moving on, I think Baby Monster's single Forever is an absolute gem and a classic. They hit every category perfectly with this one. The vocals, the rapping, the lyrics, and the catchy hook make it truly a masterpiece. The switch up on the beat was awesome, and I have to be honest, Baby Monster has yet to miss, and I have a strong feeling that this upcoming album is going to be huge for them. With that in mind, I'm giving this single a flawless 10, placing it in the perfect tier ahead of Rosé's single APT. For our final group, we have NMIXX with their single Fei Fei. This song is a cover of Back in Time by Lin, which is part of an OST for a K-drama. What makes this even more impressive is that NMIXX performs it in Cantonese, showcasing their ability to experiment with various languages, including Spanish. This truly highlights how talented and well-rounded NMIXX is, and I believe they deserve more recognition. I personally think this song is beautiful, as it showcases their powerful and incredible vocal talents. Even though it's not strictly K-pop, I felt it deserved a spot in this tier list. With that said, I'm giving this single a 9.5 and placing it in the perfect tier, right behind Misamo's new look. And for our final release, we have NMIXX's latest mini-album, FE304, Stick Out. For a while, I've always believed that NMIXX has embraced some of the quirkiest concepts out there, which made their music feel a bit scattered in terms of style. However, with this release, I think they've finally found stability and developed a concept that feels almost perfectly tailored to them. As I went through each song from this album, I was truly blown away. This release features a fantastic variety of tracks across multiple styles. The aggression in their vocal delivery showcases NMIXX at their full power. The songs range from rapping to pop to chill, laid-back vibes, and each one is simply awesome. That being said, I'm giving NMIXX, the only non-single release, a flawless 10, placing it at the very top of the perfect tier, which completes our tier list. I would even go so far as to say that this is not only my favorite release by NMIXX, but also my favorite release of 2024. And there you have it. Part 2 of my favorite K-pop releases for 2024. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you'd like to see part 1, where I discuss some of this year's earlier releases, you can check it out by clicking the link in the description or at the end screen. Also, don't forget to check out my last video, where I share my final Daesung predictions for 2024. Definitely worth watching before the year ends. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, consider supporting the channel by dropping a like, subscribing, and leaving a comment to be a part of the community. I post new videos on the first Friday of every month, along with shorts on the third Friday. Thank you so much for watching my video, and until next time, see you later.